Right, everyone, it's now 7 o'clock, so good evening, and I'd like to welcome all the members to the council meeting on the 20th of March 2024. Can I ask members when speaking to speak directly into the microphone? This will enable members and members of the public to hear. Can I remind members and members of the public to place their phones and their mobiles on silent and to stand where possible when speaking? Can I remind members to remain seated at the end of the meeting until I have risen to conclude the meeting? Can I also remind those members who wish to speak this evening to keep their hands up until acknowledged by the Chief Exec? To remind members, the meeting is being live streamed and we welcome the members of the public into the gallery watching and listening to the council meeting this evening. I would like to remind all members of the council's adopted code of practice and conduct for councillors, which you all agreed to and are expected to adhere to. I will remind members that I will not tolerate inappropriate behaviour, discourtesy in this chamber. Members should be respectful of each other and behave properly in conducting the council's business. If a member continues to disregard my ruling on these matters and causes a disturbance or behaves improperly, I will, as chair, suspend the meeting. I've just realised my thing's gone upside down. Sorry about this, it's all caught up. Thank you. I would like to introduce Daniel Thurrock, the new Executive Director of Corporate Services and Monitoring Office. Welcome, Daniel. Yes, all seen him? Yes. I would like to ask the Reverend Canon Darren Barlow to lead us in prayer. Darren. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A number of people have been surprised to see me return after thinking I'd either retired or moved along my way. I think this is possibly the last time I'll be sitting in this seat. So I did want to just briefly say what an honour it's been over many different mayors. Anne Chill was the first mayor, which was in 2010, 2011, which really does seem a long time ago. I didn't need any glasses then, and my hair wasn't quite as grey as it is now, but it's good that we can gather this evening. Last week, a good number of us, led by our mayor and the leader, attended an event outside the civic offices on the 11th of March to mark Commonwealth Day. Commonwealth Day is an opportunity to promote an understanding of global issues, inspirational cooperation, and the work of the Commonwealth organisations, which aims to improve the lives of many millions of citizens around the globe. The theme for 2024 for the Commonwealth, and will be the focus for the meeting of the Commonwealth Heads of Government, is One Resilient Common Future, Transforming Our Commonwealth. And here in Thurrock we have a rich and diverse community with many families originating from Commonwealth countries around the world. Only last summer we celebrated the 75th anniversary of the arrival of the SS Empire Windrush, which had travelled from Kingston, Jamaica, arriving at Tilbury, just along the river from here, on the 21st of June in 1948. And so we gather this evening representing all the people of this borough, and we give thanks for the Commonwealth, and we reaffirm our commitment to mutual respect and tolerance as we seek to live together as the people of Thurrock. A short prayer. We thank you, O God, for our rich and diverse community, representing many different nations around the globe here in Thurrock. And we give thanks for the enrichment that this brings to our lives. We pray for harmony and mutual respect, and that your blessings would be upon us. And in a few moments' time, we're also going to pause to give thanks, remember the life of Councillor Luke Mackenzie, the Mayor of Basildon. And his recent passing reminds us of the fragility of the earthly lives that we tread. So be with us through this meeting tonight as we seek to serve you and all the people of Thurrock. Amen.
Thank you, Darren, and thank you for supporting me all the way through my mayoral year. Thank you. Apologies for absence. I have received apologies from councillors Collins, Massey and Salmons. Are there any other apologies for absence? Councillor Polly.
Apologies for Councillor Kelly, please, Madam Mayor.
Councillor
Kelly.
Karen. Thank you.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, Councillor Rigby.
Oh, right, Councillor Rigby. Item 2, the minutes. I move that the minutes of the meeting of the 28th of February 2024 Council be approved as a correct record. These are included on pages 11 to 30 of the agenda. Is that seconded? Is any member in disagreement with the accuracy of the minutes? Councillor Spate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's not that I'm in disagreement, but we had a discussion prior to the meeting, so I'm grateful for your indulgence. We used to have matters arising. So, Madam Mayor, thank you for your courtesy and indulgence. I am grateful. It will take but a moment. On reading back the minutes of my speech on the budget, I realised I had perhaps overstepped the mark by using a phrase, pen pushers. It is a potentially derogatory remark that could be perceived by some in the process of drawing up the budget as aimed at them, and that is unfair. It is easy, when empowered by passion and belief, to make mistakes, and this was one. I have the greatest respect and admiration for the vast majority of officers and staff of Thurrock Council, and I have failed to appreciate sometimes how words said in this chamber drill down and undeservedly criticise members of staff who are doing their best, often in difficult circumstances. I will attempt in future to use more caution and thought when speaking in this chamber and other places, and I thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Spate. And yes, it's lovely of you to apologise because officers don't have the right to reply, which I always think is a bit unfair. So that's really good that, and that's cleared up now. Thank you. These minutes are approved. Item 3, items of urgent business. I've not agreed to any urgent items of business this evening. Item 4, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest to be made this evening? Announcements on behalf of the Mayor and the Leader of the Council. I would like all of us to take a moment and remember Thurrock's fallen of World War II on page 7 of the agenda. White, Edward C.P., Smith Thomas O, Evans George A, Godsalve Frederick G, Hubbard Stanley O, Dawson Walter, Maton Ronald J. Following the very sad news of the passing of the Basildon Mayor, Luke Mackenzie, I would like to hold 1 minute's silence in respect of the loss, and I would all like you to stand for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we approach the elections, I'd like to thank all councillors for their hard work over the last 12 months. And for those that are retiring from the Chamber, Councillor Collins, Pearce, Snell, Tandy, and of course you, Madam Mayor, I'd like to thank you for your service to the community and the hard work over the many, many years to your residents. And to those seeking re-election, good luck, and I look forward to seeing you all at the AGM of the Council. I'd also like to thank Alex McFarlane, our Director of Comms, who will be leaving us very soon, and I'm sure everyone would agree she's done a fantastic job improving the communications of the Council. Members will also see that at the front of the Chamber, we're welcoming new members of the SLT team for the first full Council. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to them all and look forward to working with them in the future. In order to fulfil a promise made by my administration, can I confirm that we have identified the extra savings required to balance the budget, which supports my administration's decision to not implement another 10% council tax rise. £830,000 in savings was needed to be identified. 430k from adult social care, with savings identified coming from continuing healthcare funding and a reduction in the level of estimated growth in relation to cases transitioning from children's services. The remaining 400k has been identified in the NNDR bad debt and appeals provisions. All of these cases will be brought to overview and scrutiny and to Cabinet in the next municipal year for full scrutiny. Members will also be aware that currently it's Send in Focus Week, and I hope that members have taken advantage of the offers of getting involved. I'm pleased to announce that work will start in the Town Hall on the various measures to improve the safety for members and our officers that work here, and to improve access for those with disabilities. This work will start throughout April, whilst we're all out fighting elections, and throughout the summer months. Any changes that affect members specifically, of course, members will of course be consulted. I was happy last week to attend the opening of the Stamford Mosque and Thurrock Muslim Centre on Wednesday the 6th of March in Stamford-le-Hope with the Mayor. In addition to being an important community centre, it's also a place of worship for Muslims in the east of the borough, and I hope they feel at home in their new location. This administration has been committed itself to turning to the PAS review. This administration has been committed itself to incorporating all elements of the recent PAS review. This was heard at Cabinet this week, where this view was confirmed. Some actions are currently being implemented. Some will require a complete new action plan, which is being worked on. Some will incur additional costs, which need to be calculated and confirmed. But I again reiterate, all the recommendations will be implemented, and I look forward to bringing further updates to the Council. On a very disappointing note, Thurrock has generated bad news yet again. Members are aware that a complaint was made to Standards and Audit about the conduct of a councillor and potential racism. I'm sure that the leaders of all three groups on the Council will not tolerate any racism in their groups. As leader of the Conservative Party, I pledge that any candidate or councillor found to have been racist will no longer be a member of this group. This particular complaint was upheld, and the Standards and Audit panel was clear that the councillor was racist. The Standards and Audit panel asked that the member to complete a training course and apologise. It saddens me that neither appears to have been done, although it was reported in Thurrock Nub News that both had been done. It also saddens me that the subsequent comments on social media about this racism has continued, with this member liking posts that reaffirms this racism. I'd like to ask Councillor Burns to reflect on his actions since the Standards and Audit Committee met, and after reflecting, offer a public apology for any hurt that's been caused, and to agree with me that racism in all its ugly forms should not be tolerated in this chamber, on social media, and in the community at large. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
sorry. Sorry. Item 6, questions from members of the public. I will now take... Councillor Spate wants to speak. Have you a point of order, Councillor Spate?
I do. Sorry, Madam Mayor. I do, and you'll no doubt ask me for the specific quotations, but it doesn't take long, has it, from 3 or 4 minutes ago, speaking about being reasonable in this chamber, and I just find that was absolutely
Councillor
appalling from the
Spate,
Leader of the
one
Council.
moment. Have you got the actual... Hang on, please.
Because-
I'm speaking.
Gary,
Councillor,
sit down.
Gary, sit down. Can you all stop, please, talking across the chamber? Councillor Spate,
Madam
can
Mayor,
you
okay,
actually...
I would ask the...
Councillor Spate, I'm going to hear what you've got to say, but can you give me the number of the point of order that you're trying to raise?
No, I can't, Madam Mayor. If you'd like, I would like to ask the Democratic... If I explain what a point I would like to make, then there may be a point of order. If there isn't, there isn't. But at the end of the day, I believe it is fundamentally the right of members, when they are called out and named in this chamber, to be able to respond. And Councillor Byrne was just being called out in this chamber. He's asked me to respond on his behalf as his spokesman.
But Councillor Spate, that is not the agreed code of conduct within this chamber that everyone has signed up to. So I'm sorry, on this occasion, you'll have to stay seated. Thank you.
Well, incredibly disappointing, Madam Mayor.
Item 6. I will now take questions from the public. One question has been submitted and accepted by the monitoring officer. These are set out on page 31 of the agenda. For the benefit of the recording of this meeting, I would ask that the questionnaire read out their question when asked to do so. I would also inform the questionnaire that any supplementary question they may ask should not take the form of a statement, but must be related to the original question or the answer that is given. Councillor Worrell, can we all stop talking so that we can hear the member of the public? Question 1. Good evening, Mrs. Citizen. Please make your way to the public speaker microphone and read out your question. Thank you.
Thank you. My question, in the name of transparency and accountability, how do you propose engaging with local communities in the decision-making process regarding the uses of Section 106 money arising from developments in their area? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mrs. Sisterson, for your question. Madam Mayor, as is well known, the Council commissioned a Planning Advisory Service to undertake a peer review of the Council's planning service last year. The aims of the review were developed following extensive conversations with Thurrock Council, as well as a number of key stakeholders. As part of the review, the peer review focused on 5 key themes, which included community engagement, with a focus on how the planning service undertakes its community leadership role and community aspirations. A further theme was titled Achieving Outcomes, specifically how well the service leverages national and local planning policy to deliver the sustainable development and planning outcomes its community requires. Madam Mayor, 11 recommendations were issued following the review, and as has been made clear by the Leader, the Council will seek to implement all of them, including those that aim to promote community input. To this end, I'm pleased to advise that we have recently approved a high-level action plan that addresses the issues raised in the recommendations. Of interest to Mrs. Sisterson will be recommendation 5 of the PAS review, which urges for the appointment of an infrastructure planning officer to oversee the management, monitoring and collection of Section 106 funding. Once this appointment has been made, a key function of the new post holder will be to ensure that the whole 106 process is more transparent, and this includes capturing the views of local communities. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Maney. Ms. Sisterson, do you wish to propose a supplementary question?
Yes,
Thank
please.
you.
Thank you for that answer, and that's encouraging to hear that, you know, things are in hand. But at the moment, there's no current engagement with local residents, so I'd like to ask the following supplementary question. We know that there's £570,000 worth of Section 106 funding arising from the deeply unpopular PDI development on Ship Lane in Averley. We understand that it is to be spent on a 3G football pitch to replace the lost training pitches on Ship Lane. If this is the case, we'd ask that you to consider contributing towards a new training pitch at Averley Football Club. They've got the land there and floodlights already in place. They'd open it up for extensive local use through an expansion of their existing community use agreement, which would be very popular among local footballers of all ages. And it should be noted that without a new training pitch, they're going to struggle to meet their current community agreement. Because of their promotion, they need a new type of main pitch and it won't be capable of the playing time that they need. The alternative, which we know is being considered, would be to build on the historic Bellis Park. This would entail considerable loss of parkland for general use, and they already have very good, well-drained pitches on the site, and they're widely used. And we know that councillors are keen on protecting our green spaces. It's also unlikely that the funds available would cover the full cost of a pitch there.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's getting to be a statement rather than a
Oh,
question.
okay. Okay, well, I'll just... I've got a couple
To the
of points.
question.
Yeah, okay
Thank
then.
you.
So I'm just saying, so it would be by far the cheaper option. They've got the facilities, and we would also like confirmation that no decision would be made without local public consultation. So that's the...
Thank you. Councillor Maney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Mrs Sisterson raises some very valid points. And on the issue of whether the new proposed pitch should be built on Bellis Park, I can say we are as one. I think it would be akin to vandalism of a Grade 2 listed parkland. And I speak as an individual, not as the portfolio holder with responsibility for planning, but I wholeheartedly oppose the construction of a pitch on Bellis Park. Which is, as I say, would, I think, seriously detract from its characteristic, which is open parkland, and we should do all that we can to protect that very important characteristic. I think a number of sites are being considered for the new pitch. You're quite right. I'm yet to see the numbers stack up and see how the contribution that has been made could possibly fund a new 3G pitch. But Bellis Park, I understand, is not the only location. There is a site quite nearby which I think the council is exploring. But I take on board your comments, and I think that's something that the council can certainly give consideration to, as long as the new pitch was available to the community, the Averley community, that's had to bear the brunt of the awful PDI planning application. I think as long as it's available to the community, its precise location is not really relevant. It's whether it's accessible. So all I can say to you is I'll certainly speak to officers and ask them to consider that proposal. And if they need to talk to Averley Football Club or even yourself and local councils, I'm sure we can do that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. If you'd like to return to your seat. Item 7, petitions from members of the public and councillors. Please be advised that in accordance with the councillors' petition scheme, 3 notices of petition have been received. Petition 1, Councillor Polly, please read out your first petition relating to inconsiderate parking at various locations within your ward, including but not exclusive to Stifford Road, Danbury Crescent and Garran Lane. You have 3 minutes to speak, Councillor Polly.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I have presented the petition already to Democratic Services, but as we've spoken in this chamber previously about parking outside schools, I think increasingly it does become more problematic. There are 3 quite significant areas within the ward of Bellis that are encountering problems with inconsiderate parking, and the residents have approached me to act on their behalf and speak on their behalf to try and take a holistic approach to what may be done. Members of the public have asked for yellow lines, but we understand from speaking with highways engineers and that this may not be the best option. and whether they're enforceable is also another thing. So the petition is from our residents requesting that we take a look at the inconsiderate parking, but especially in Darrenbury Crescent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Polly. Councillor Ben-Maney, would you respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Polly, for your petition. I know that you have raised issues around parking and road safety on behalf of your constituents several times in this chamber, and it's good to see you doing so again. Obviously, I can't give a decision tonight, but it goes without saying we'll certainly consider the petition and what it's calling for. Cabinet recently approved the integrated transport block allocation and the schemes that we'll be funding under that in the next financial year. And I think I'm right in saying that the area intervention programme will focus on areas of South Ockenden. So I would very much hope as part of that we can accommodate some of the things that the petitioners are calling for. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Maney. Petition 2, Councillor Polly. Please read out your second petition relating to the community request for the Council's help in identifying possible sites for a registered charity to set up an academy. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and it is with great honour that I present this petition tonight, and especially when we've had prayers from Reverend Darren Barlow about community cohesion and about living together in unity, and the richness and the culture that we have here in Thurrock that does absolutely need to be celebrated. In fact, looking at our very own council agenda, our vision and priorities for Thurrock are a borough where people of all ages are proud to work and play, live and stay. High quality, consistent and accessible public services, which are the right first time. Build our partnerships with statutory, community, voluntary and faith groups to work together to improve health and well-being. Communities empowered to make choices and be safer and stronger together. This petition, Madam Mayor, absolutely echoes our vision here in Thurrock. So the petition is the undersigned members of the community request Thurrock Council to initiate a dialogue with the charity El Falah Academy regarding the establishment of a cultural and education centre to serve over 5% of our community. It is imperative that our community has access to resources that promote cultural understanding and educational enrichment. The proposed centre would not only cater for the needs of a significant portion of our population, but also to foster diversity, inclusivity within our community. We urge Thurrock Council to take proactive steps in engaging with the Academy to explore the possibility of utilising premises for this noble endeavour. By working together, we can create a vibrant hub that celebrates our cultural heritage and provides valuable educational opportunities for all members of our community. And as you will know, Madam Mayor, we attended a function where we did indeed see all continents coming together, from our friends from Bosnia, from Middle Eastern countries, from Africa, from mainland Europe. Our motto here in Thurrock is from Thurrock to the world. We welcome the world, and we would like to support this petition, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Polly. Councillor Ben-Maney, do you wish to reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just reflecting, I think, on the leader's comments a moment ago about the ugly sign of racism that some amongst our number have expressed. I think it is very refreshing to know that equally there are members of this chamber, and Councillor Polly is chief amongst them, who speak for all our communities. Often what she does goes unseen, but I don't think any of us need to be told that she is a stalwart when it comes to representing all of our communities, the changing face of our communities, and making sure that they are not the object of ridicule, but in fact a welcome part of our community. I hope that the petitioners express their sentiment during the local plan consultation process, or the site-specific consultation, should I say, because we obviously hasn't consulted on the local plan yet. But in any case, I think we've pledged to be a more listening council, and in that spirit, we should definitely meet with representatives of the community that Councillor Polly's representing and see what they wish to convey to us. If we can help them in any way or advise them in any way, then we shall do so. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Maney. Petition number 3. This is by Councillor Redsill. Please read out her petition. I would like her to read out her petition regarding reduce the speed limit on Woodview from 40 to 30 miles per hour, Blackshots roundabout to King Edward Drive. You have 3 minutes to speak to your motion. Thank you. It's your petition.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I won't need 3 minutes, thank you. But you've already read out my petition, but the residents have wanted a speed restriction in this area for so long. We have put something in before, about 5 years ago. There has been many accidents in the area on both sides of Woodview. It seems that now the time is right. As we have just had a lowering of the limit put on Stamford Road with the one new school and treetops on the other side, it now seems that we have a limit on the A13, the old A13 reduced from 40 to 30, which seems silly when we go from the 40 limit on Stamford Road to Blackshots roundabout 30, then back up to 40 in Woodview. And then as we get to King Edward Drive, it's back down to 30 again. So it just doesn't marry up. We need to do that. There are people who live in Woodview and both sides of Woodview, which comes into Councillor Kelly and Councillor Gledhill's ward, and I hope they'll support in this one. It just seems that we have so much worry with, there's been loads of accidents, many accidents there, especially with motorbikes. I think I was there with a resident last night and some motorbike went up there, must have been doing 80 or 90 up the road. So it's just a bad, I just think this is the right time where we've made the limit on Stamford Road back down to 30. It's a good time to do it now. It'll mean that you leave Stamford Road, come onto the roundabout and go into the same limit. It just seems silly that we go on to Lodge Lane and it's still 30, but we've turned up Woodview and it's 40. So I think we need it on both sides. So just saying that again, I hope Councillor Kelly, Councillor Gledhill, because we've done this on both sides of the road and it comes into both our wards. So thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Redsill. Councillor Maney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As with all these requests, we will consider it, of course. Whenever making any highways decision, particularly in relation to speed limits and altering speed limits, the council always takes a data-led approach. So we'll have to see whether the data justifies such a move, and we also have to consult with partners such as the police, who ultimately would have to enforce any new speed limit. No more to be said, I don't think, Madam Mayor, other than to say we will consider the request that Councillor Redsill has submitted on behalf of her residents and respond in due course.
Thank you, Councillor Maney. Item 8, update report in respect of those petitions presented at Council and the Council officers. This report can be found on page 33 of the agenda and its information on the status of the petitions. Hang on, can I just get to the end of my sentence? Handed in at the council meetings and council officers. Councillor Spate, you have your hand in the air.
I do, Madam Mayor, and it is with a great sense of disappointment, but you asked earlier on, I'd like to make a point of order, and I'd like to make it relating to Chapter 2, Section 3.4.
Councillor Spate, is this to do with this item?
No, Madam Mayor, it's a point of order.
Can I finish this item,
I put my hand
please?
up before you started. But you just...
I don't know if you had noticed that. Is it about...
I am quite happy to wait to the end of this matter, and then before scrutiny, I'll raise my hand again.
Right. At the moment, I've begun this report, so we'll go along to this item. Apparently, I cannot go backwards over something we've already talked about, but let's see how it all begins to pan out. So this report, as I said, can be found on page 33 of the agenda and is the information on the status of petitions handed in at the council meetings and the council offices. Item 9, appointments to committees and outside bodies, statutory and other panels. Leader, do you wish to make any changes at this point? Thank you. Councillor Kent. Councillor Spate. Thank you. Is any member in disagreement with what we've agreed just now, that we're not changing anything? Yes, thank you. I don't know quite how to word that. Right, item 10, overview and scrutiny function. Leader, would you please introduce the report? Councillor Spake, can you hang on a minute? Can you please? No, it's okay. Leader, would you please introduce the report that can be found on page 35 to 38? You have 5 minutes to speak on this report.
Madam Mayor, perhaps, I think Councillor Spate wishes to make a point of order. Perhaps he can raise his point of order and then we can move on to item 10.
I was actually going to wait until we got up to Greater Essex devolution. I thought I'd get through this bit and then do that, because I did say to you, that's fine. I found that that would be a natural break from doing this part of the business. I'm sorry if you find it comical, but I just thought that to me seemed natural. And as I'm chairing the meeting, please bear with me. Right, where were we? Introduce your report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members have before them a report which makes recommendations for a new structure of ONS committees. The report details a series of meetings and discussions with members and the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny, who were asked to make recommendations for improvements. The report was considered by General Services Committee on February the 13th, and 2 recommendations were made, and they are contained in this report. This report reflects the work of an external national body in collaboration with members and officers. The recommendations represent the changes required to deliver the Council's Improvement Recovery Plan to ensure stronger governance in decision-making and the effective discharge of the ONS functions. I'm happy to take any questions or comments, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kent, do you wish to speak? You have 4 minutes to speak. Thank you.
So, Madam Mayor, we're going to be supporting the recommendations. We've been through a lengthy process. There's been lots of debate. There's been every opportunity for all members to have an input before we've got here this evening. And I just want to repeat something that I've often said. I've spent a lot of time over the years in other authorities, and I've seen an awful lot of scrutiny functions. And I don't think I've ever seen a scrutiny function that really works and really does what members of those authorities would like it to do. And I think you can put in place almost any structure and any process you want, but unless you get the culture of the organisation and you get the culture of that body right, it's never going to quite work. So I just hope that everybody kind of grips the opportunity with a new structure in a new municipal year to kind of have a fresh start. And I think that the one thing that doesn't come through enough in this, if I can say we need to consider it later, is the support that's going to be given to those scrutiny committees, to that scrutiny function. And that's actually coaching members on how they get under the skin of an issue, areas that they should be probing, the kind of questions they should be asking. And I think we will need external support to mentor and coach members through that. And I hope that as we move through the new municipal year, we can make sure that's put in place. That's all I want to say, Madam Mayor. I think it's a better structure than the one we've got at the moment, and we will be supporting.
Thank you, Councillor Kent, and I agree with you. Councillor Spate, is there anything you would like to say?
Yes, very briefly, I would endorse much of what Councillor Kent said, and like himself, I have a widespread experience of many councils across the country, and scrutiny is a problem in many, many areas. Personally, I don't like what we have in front of us, and I've spoken about that at the appropriate time, and the majority decision has gone forward, and that's democracy, and we must adhere to it, and we will give it our best shot, and I will be supporting it as much as I possibly can, and I'm sure colleagues will be doing the same. I do worry that the way we've talked about silo working and breaking down silo working, and it's been fundamental. It's really important to this council that we do that. I have an inherent fear that by doing what we're doing, we're going to create 3 big silos and people are going to get lost walking around inside them. But we will give it a go. I've got absolute confidence in the senior leadership team. They're coming on board with some good ideas. They're bringing change to Thurrock. And whether it's good change or bad change, we'll find out in the course of time. But I do welcome the change. I personally I've had the luxury, as I've said several times, of being able to express my opinion. I personally will not be voting in support of this, but I will certainly be making sure that I personally support it as we find our way through the next civic year.
Thank you, Councillor Spate. Is there any other member wishing to speak? No? Councillor Leader, would you please sum up? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd agree with what was just said earlier, and that is this is a report. This doesn't actually change anything. It's the members that change it. So, yeah, it's really important that there's full engagement, full participation by members, and that we do provide the right support and training so that better scrutiny of the executive's policies and decisions can take place.
I will now proceed to the recommendations, but I believe that Councillor Spate is not going to be supporting all of these, so shall I do it separately? So, number 1, agree with the restructuring of the overview and scrutiny function to consist of 3 committees, people, place and corporate, as detailed in this report and appendices. Are we all in agreement with that one? Agreed. Thank you. Okay, so anyone against? Hands up. 1 person against. No? Right. So, shall we go for an abstention then? 3 of you. Thank you. We've got the 3 names. And those who just do not want to vote anyway. That's the 4th option, isn't it? No? Right. Item number 2, that the new Overview and Scrutiny Committee structure starts from the municipal year 2024 to 2025. Are we all in agreement with that one? Are there any abstentions? Or any person not wanting to vote? No. Number 3, subject to the addition of 2 substitutes per political group to be added to each committee, agree the terms of reference of these committees at Appendix 1 and delegated authority to the monitoring officer to include them in the constitution. Hands up, all those who agree with that one. Are there any abstentions? Anyone against? Item number 4, cease. 1, Local Development Plan Task Force, and 2, the Hidden and Extreme Harms Prevention Committee from the 2024-25 municipal year in accordance with the Centre of Governance and Scrutiny's finding and recommendation. Who's in agreement with this one? Hands up. Who disagrees? Who abstains? So I've got 2 abstentions and 1 disagreement. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Number 5, formally adopt an overview and scrutiny protocol attached at Appendix 2 and incorporate it into the Constitution as part of the forthcoming revised overview and scrutiny chapter. Hands up, all who support that one. Thank you. Have I got any abstentions? Anyone against? Thank you. Item 6, that the Lower Thames Crossing Task Force continues as a body until such time the Place Overview and Scrutiny Committee considers creating a Lower Thames Crossing Task and Finish group. Hands up, all those who support that one. Are there any abstentions? Is there anyone against? Thank you. Item 7, that the Place Overview and Scrutiny Committee may be able to create 2 task and finish groups in addition to the Lower Thames Crossing Task and Finish group. Do we all agree with that one? No one against and no abstentions. Thank you. Right, so I've got it that all the members mainly all agree to the recommendations. Right, we're now coming up to 8:02 or about then. No, we're not, 7:50. So, Councillor Spate, I said I would hold it there because that seemed a fair place to do.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for your indulgence yet again. I am referring to a matter that's taken place at this evening's committee meeting, so I don't think it's a historical matter as such. I'm raising my point of order under Chapter 2 of the Constitution, 3.4F.
Can you wait for a minute so we find it?
I can read it out to you if you like.
No, that's okay. I'm sure they can find it. Yes, no, that's correct.
You happy for me to continue?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, that, just so anybody who isn't familiar with that, it says that at a full council, an ordinary full council meeting, which this is, the meeting will receive any announcements from or on behalf of the Mayor or the Leader. An announcement being a formal communication of items of news or matters of public interest to the Council. What we actually witnessed this evening was a personal and subjective attack on a member of this Council. It was an opinion. It also, to my mind, massively invalidates the structure of the Council because the Audit and Scrutiny Committee discussed this matter in public at some length when all the statements that were relevant to the history were discussed. And I don't have a view either way in terms of guilt or whatever, but I do love process. And that meeting decided that it would report next year, in the next civic year, to this full council meeting, the outcome of that panel hearing. Therefore, I think it was entirely inappropriate. I felt it was entirely inappropriate that the leader expressed not just his personal opinion, but a political statement on behalf of his group regarding racism. And I do not believe that it meets the criteria. So I would like to make a formal complaint. I will leave it there and I will ask the legal team to look at it and we can deal with it in due course.
Thank you, Councillor Spate. So we will begin to have a look at that and I'm sure someone will come back to you. Okay? Thank you. I'm going to move on and we're going to take item 11, Greater Essex Devolution. Leader, would you please introduce the report that can be found on pages 69 to 74? You have 5 minutes to speak. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a shame the council can't come together as one when racism is named.
No, Councillor.
And unite against racism in every
Leader,
form.
can you just hang on a minute? I have asked you to talk about Greater Essex Devolution. So, Councillor Spate has said his bit, you've said your bit. We'll wait until we've decided what we're going to do about it and what is necessary. So would you please keep to Greater Essex Devolution, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last year, the council was informed that the government had offered Greater Essex the opportunity to work towards a Level 2 devolution deal. Thurrock Council, Essex Council, Southend-on-Sea City Council and the Police and Fire Commissioner, Roger Hurst, have worked tirelessly to bring about a deal that would be agreeable to everyone. Unfortunately, the government has decided to pause the negotiations until after the general election. Whilst this is disappointing, I do hope that after the general election, negotiations can continue and a deal that will bring greater prosperity and opportunities for our communities can be agreed. I'm happy to take any questions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Kemp, would you like to say something?
I think the pause is regrettable. I think it's a huge disappointment. It's got to be clear. We need the economies of scale across Essex to help us improve the way we do economic regeneration, the way we improve skills, especially adult skills. Adult skills in Thurrock are much lower than they should be. How we work together on transport, how we improve public transport, not only across Thurrock but across Essex, and how we improve support to businesses, especially to small businesses. So I think this is a wasted opportunity. Not a party political point, but whatever flavour of government we have after a general election will come back to some form of devolution, some form of devolution deals, and it is imperative that we redouble our efforts and make sure that we get a deal that works for us in Thurrock and works for the whole of Essex, because I genuinely believe that by working together we'll get much more than the sum of the parts.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Would any other member like to speak on this report? Each member will get 4 minutes to speak on it. Councillor Howden, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do join Councillor Kent to a degree in expressing concern that devolution is not going forward, but fundamentally we don't need a devolution deal, we need local government reform. Devolution and reform are subtly different. Devolution is changing the constituting parts that we have power over. Reform is changing the structure itself. Yet the reality is, unfortunately, reforming local government in England is a little bit like trying to achieve world peace at the UN. Everyone agrees with it as a matter of principle, but unfortunately all the component players believe that they are the only people who have got a viable solution of how to go about it. The reason we need reform rather than devolution is because I've railed in the chamber several times against the extend and pretend option we're going down. Thurrock is not a viable authority based on its current makeup. It shouldn't have been made a unitary authority in the 90s. It is too small. Its demography doesn't allow you to run a proper healthcare economy. I've said this multiple times. It's why all members voted 3 times for an investment strategy. We couldn't become sustainable even prior to the investment impairment. And that is the point we've got to address. I'm disappointed we haven't adequately used the prominence that Thurrock now has because of our issues to advocate more strongly for actual reform rather than devolution. Now, let's be honest about why this scheme has specifically faltered. It is specifically faltered because of that old cliche that turkeys won't vote for Christmas, because the only way that you achieve local government reform is by being quite blunt that the reason that so many people don't want reform is because they are scared of a backlash based on reform necessitating a needed growth in jobs, a growth in housing, and a reform of the council tax system that moves taxation to a consumption-based system. These are the reasons that people create faux rage about why reform can't go forward, because they are purely worried about the electoral consequences for themselves. Turkeys don't vote for Christmas. Well, I think that this authority, this particular turkey, could be quite robust about that festive season. The reality is, based on where we are now, even if the investment impairment is wiped out, we have only got about a decade before the social care burden absorbs the entire local authority budget. At one stage, I think we were projecting 2032 by the time we are simply Thurrock Social Care Authority. No bins, no highways, no anything other than statutory services. The government of whatever colour will eventually need to reform in South Essex. No ifs, no buts. They will have to intervene in a significant way. So if that intervention is going to happen anyway, let us be forthright and let us offer ourselves as that turkey. Let us offer ourselves as a place where we can test a consumption-based tax to get rid of council tax and business rates. Let us cut 60% of the councillors that we have, and let us truly smash through the barriers that we have when it comes to delivering housing growth and when it comes to delivering job growth. Thurrock can have its Tamworth moment. We can be that Rosetta Stone and prove that we are a place that can get it right. And when I say that we can end this extend and pretend nonsense, this is not a theoretical thing where I'm pretending that Thurrock can do something so out of kilter for the rest of the country. Whitehall would never have had a local authority that would have come forward and said, We believe abolition is the only way forward for us. We believe in consumption-based taxation. We believe in housing growth in a way that hasn't been attempted before. Anyone in His Majesty's government would jump at the opportunity. I think we can be forthright in that way, and we've got to try something.
Thank you, Councillor Howden. Is there any other member wishing to speak? Councillor Spate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I share the sentiment of colleagues that there is something of a missed opportunity here. I hope it won't be missed for very long. I do think there is a huge need for joint working across a wide range of subjects where we can all benefit. The one that immediately springs to mind is transport. We are isolated in Thurrock. We need to have, we've got health links with Basildon, with Southend, with Chelmsford, and we've got a transport system that doesn't really work to support that. And it's the same going the other way. People in Chelmsford may have to come to Thurrock for some specialist treatments at some point in the future. So we need to work hand in glove on those particular issues. There are other areas where we can work together as well. I don't know whether members in here have been sort of monitoring what's going on in Basildon regarding their waste collection service. Bad as Thurrock's has been, I think we could actually share some knowledge with the people of Basildon, because they're having all sorts of problems with their bin service and the multiple ways in which they're changing it. It's another example where sharing experience will work. So I think it needs to be very well thought out. There needs to be some very clear definitions of where boundaries do lie and where boundaries can be mixed. But I think nothing is unattainable. My one fear would be that we're going to go through the hell and whatever we've got, brimstone we've got to go through for the next couple of years financially. We will then start to see coming out of what we've had to go through, and we'll also start to see the benefits of the free port, which is fundamentally something confined by and large within Thurrock. Obviously, we've got Fords just along the way to the west, but fundamentally it's Thurrock, and Thurrock are going to bear a lot of the pain that will inevitably come with some of that development, the industrial development and whatever, as will down at DP World, Thames Enterprise Park, if it happens. So what I would not like to see is that we wait so long, we weather the storm, and then the financial benefits that we would put to good use in Thurrock will then suddenly be spent in leafy North Essex. So I think we have to be very prudent. We have to be very, very cautious. But certainly I welcome the whole concept of devolution. And I look forward, certainly over the next civic year, hopefully, to getting a start on it and see where we go beyond then.
Thank you, Councillor Spate. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? No. Leader, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to give members some reassurance as well, although devolution is not happening, we do have South Essex Councils, which brings together the leaders and the chief executives of South Essex Council, and they're working very closely together to try and bring about ways of working together, so cross-partnerships. There's a lot of work going on there. Totally agree with the thoughts that whatever the deal is has got to be for the benefits of Thurrock. With regards to free ports, certainly since I've been leader, it's one of the things that I've been keen. Thurrock needs to benefit from free ports. It's in our area, and I'm pleased to say that on the board, not only am I on the board, shouting for Thurrock, but also we have the full support of both our members of Parliament who do a lot of work in Westminster to make sure that any benefits from the free ports actually comes here to Thurrock as well.
Thank you, Leader. I'll now proceed to the recommendation that full council notes the progress and current pause of the proposed Greater Essex devolution deal. Do members note the recommendation? Thank you. Item 12, council tax, second homes premium. Councillor Snell, would you please introduce the report that can be found on pages 75 to 80? You have 5 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is a follow-up to the council tax premium report that previously was considered by council on the 28th of February. At that meeting, council voted in favour of an amendment to defer the decision on approving the second homes premium from the 1st of April 2025 for further consideration. There are currently 289 properties identified on the council tax system as second homes.
However, as second homes are currently subject to standard council tax charges, it is recognised that this information may not be accurate, and therefore communication and validation exercises will be undertaken before premium charges could be applied. As the intended purpose is to encourage owners to bring properties back into general use, numbers potentially subject to the premium cannot be validated at this stage. However, based on current numbers, the combined effect would amount to an additional £405,000 in council tax revenue from 2025-26. The government intends to introduce some mandatory exclusions where the second home premiums will not apply. Guidance on this, Madam Mayor, has been received by the Council, but not in time for it to be included with this report. This is the important bit. The legislation requires that Council make the decision to introduce the premium at least 12 months before the financial year it applies. Therefore, should the Council wish to maintain the option to charge the premium for 2025-26, it needs to make an initial determination to introduce by the 31st of March this year. The Council has the power to reconsider or revoke any previous decision before the financial year it is due to be charged. Therefore, in this instance, if approved before the 31st of March 2024, the Council will have the option to reconsider its implementation within the new financial year, therefore allowing plenty of time to review the government guidance and its impact. So, finally, Madam Mayor, and to be clear, by agreeing the recommendation to accept the second homes premium today, it doesn't mean that the Council is agreeing to implement it. That decision will rest with the administration in the next municipal year.
Thank you,
Thank you, Madam
Councillor
Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Snell. Councillor Kent, would you like to say anything?
Only to say, Madam Mayor, that we will be supporting the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Would any other member like to speak on this report? Councillor Spate.
I think it's appropriate I should, given that it was me that raised it at the last meeting. I think we're playing guessing games here, and I absolutely get the get out that Councillor Snell has just put in. You know, we've got a joker in the pack that we can bring out if we've got it wrong. I'd like to think we made policy where we knew that we'd got it right. I remember, and I may have got this wrong, my hearing's not what it was, when we discussed finances at the last meeting, I think the figure was that whoever came up with the figure was round about £45,000. It's now gone up to £405,000. And nobody really knows, and as Councillor Snell quite clearly pointed out, there are 289 homes. We don't know how many of them are going to count. We don't know what the government's impact is going to be. In fact, we actually know very, very little about what we're doing. And we talk about growing this council and being mature and knowing what we're doing and being in control. And yet again, we're playing guessing games. Now, okay, we can change our mind next year, but what signal does that send out? You know, vote the way that you want to vote. The majority of people will come to a decision. But I think it's wrong, and as I outlined at the last meeting, I think it's fundamentally wrong because I think it's hypocritical. I really do think we're following a pack mentality here. This whole second homes policy was brought about to bring second homes in rural areas, in holiday areas, and in you know, on the fringes of towns that were being used and could be used for a local need. We're talking about 289 properties here that we don't know very much about. And as I say, we also have a very, very great top team sat over there that are going to do wonders for this borough. How many of them are actually going to be moving into the borough 7 days a week? Or actually, are they going to be coming in and staying in temporary accommodation, effectively a second home, and then going back to their homes at the weekend? And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticising it. It's the way industry works. It's the way people deserve to live their lives. But I don't think we should be penalising people when we don't do it ourselves.
Thank you, Councillor Spate. Councillor Snell, would you like to sum up?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I thought I'd made it quite clear, actually, that you know, amongst those 289 properties that have been identified as second homes, that actually more work does need to be done. So I'm actually agreeing with Councillor Spate on that. But I think, you know, given where we are as a council, and in fact councils all over the land, if we have a tool that we can potentially use to help us with our situation, then we need to make sure we can use it should we need to. And this is what this does. This is bringing us the opportunity to bring this into effect should it be required. If we don't do this, then that's off the table. Now, you know, we've been through a very trying year trying to get the budget sorted out for this year. I think we need all the tools we could get to try and make it work next year as well. And of course, you talk about people coming into using temporary accommodation. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a second home. Temporary accommodation could be rented accommodation. It doesn't mean that's a second home. So we are going to look at this. We are going to check this out. And, you know, it's not a guessing game. We will end up where we end up, but we are saying give us the power to use this, and we will decide next year, whoever the administration is, whether to use it or whether not to. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Snell. In light of what Councillor Spates said, I will now proceed to the recommendations, but I'll do them singly. 1.1, the Council approves the introduction of 100% council tax premium in addition to the normal council tax on properties classed as second homes from the 1st of April 2025. All those in agreement? All those who are against? All those who abstain? Councillor Byrne, did you do anything? Thank you. 1.2, that Council notes that in approving 1.1, the Council retains the option to amend or revoke the decision before it comes into force on the 1st of April 2025. Are we all in agreement? Thank you. Is there any abstentions? Anyone against? Thank you. Sorry, 1.3, that the Council approves in line with 1.2, the decision will be returned to the Council for review within the budget setting reports for 2025 to 2026. Are you all in agreement? Is there anyone against? Is there any abstentions? Do members approve and note the recommendations? Yes, thank you. Item 13, Local Government Boundary Commission England Boundary Review 2024 to 2025. Leader, would you please introduce the report that can be found on pages 81 to 86? You have 5 minutes to speak on this subject. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll keep my remarks very short, that I just have one amendment to make to the recommendation 1.2, and that the consultation includes the Vice Chair of the working group. I believe that the Chair of the working group also would like to speak on this and propose an amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp, would you like to say something? Sorry, Councillor Morris-Cook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, it's as the chair of this group, it's been my pleasure to work on it. And I would like to put a recommendation for 1.1, where it actually says that with the two members that are described in paragraph 2.4 in the report, I'd actually like it written in that it would be one of the members would be coming from West Thurrock and the second member would be coming from one of the wards in the east of the borough.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Would any member like to speak on this report? No. Leader, do you wish to sum up? You have 2 minutes. No summing up. I will now proceed to the recommendations, which I think we're going to have to rewrite, are we not?
It's quite easy, it's just...
Hang on a minute. Yes.
East.
On which one? On 1.1?
I said east.
To save time, Councillor Cook, Morris Cook, would you like to read it out?
Yes.
And that would be easier, wouldn't it?
Yes, no problem. So recommendations 1.1, the Members' Boundary Review Working Group recommends that full council makes a submission for the creation of a new Purfleet-on-Thames ward I'd like to add in there the name to be confirmed, because I don't think it's our role to choose the name for this particular ward, with 2 members, 1 member coming from the West Thurrock ward and 1 member to come from the east of the borough.
Thank you, Councillor Morris-Cook. Are council in agreement with that amendment? Is anyone against? Is anyone abstaining? So, Councillor Morris-Cook, that's what we will do. 1.1, to delegate to the Executive Director for Corporate Services in his role as Monitoring Officer and his nominee authority to draft and submit the agreed consultation response following consultations with the Chair of the Working Group and the Vice Chair. So I've got to write that bit in. Do members agree with those and note that recommendations? Agreed. No one against, no one abstaining. Thank you. Annual pay policy. Councillor Snell, would you like to introduce your report? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In order to comply with the Localism Act 2011, it is necessary for full council to approve a pay policy statement in advance of the financial year to which it applies. What? Sorry. The annual pay policy statement for 24-25 includes changes to apply the NJC pay award and the outcome of the review of senior manager pay. The proposals mean that the council will no longer be required to commission an independent assessment to recommend pay awards or determine grades for each senior post. This represents a saving of approximately £4,000 per annum. The decision to apply the NJC pay award will not result in any higher increases than the council's current method for increasing pay through an independent recommendation submitted for the budget process each year. This is because the current collective agreement with trade unions guarantees to match the cumulative value of the NJC awards over the period of the agreement if they are higher. The outcome of the senior pay review includes the application of NJC cost of living pay awards, the cost of which over time will be broadly the same as the current method for increasing pay based on an independent assessment of median pay each year. Other than one-off adjustments to implement the outcome of the review, the cost of the new pay structure are no higher than the current arrangements. Just to say, Madam Mayor, this has been through General Services and it was agreed through there as well. But open for questions.
Thank you, Councillor Snell. Councillor Kemp, would you like to say something? If so, you have 4 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councillor Snell says, this was debated fully at General Services Committee. I think we were in unanimous agreement there, so we will be supporting the recommendations this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Would any other member like to speak on this report? Each member will get 4 minutes. No, thank you. Councillor Snell, would you like to sum up now? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just thank the support of the Chamber and go to the recommendations, please.
I will now proceed to the recommendation. 1, approve the Council's annual pay policy statement 2024 to 2025 attached as an appendices 2. Do members approve that recommendation? Thank you. Item 15, verbal update from the Best Value Commissioners. Gavin Jones, would you please like to introduce this item? You have 5 minutes to speak, Gavin. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Mayor. Thank you, members, for affording me this time to give you a brief summarised update of the letter that Commissioners wrote to the Secretary of State on the 22nd of January, and I believe you've all had copies of that letter to you now. Just to remind you that this was the first letter that was written under the new Commissioner regime, because previously, of course, the October letter, Essex County Council was the Commissioner for for Thurrock, and the Secretary of State changed that model such that myself and Nicole Wood became named as individual commissioners with no association to Essex County Council as part of that intervention as well. I'll bring out some key themes, if I may, Madam Mayor, and then invite some questions as feels appropriate. First of all, the headline, I think, is very promising in the terms of the way the Council has accepted where it is and its ownership of its recovery plan, which I think we've seen very clearly evidence across the whole Council. And I think that was evidenced by Council accepting the enhanced improvement and recovery plan that was required under the directions as well. So that was a very positive sign for us as commissioners. Of course, so I do have to put that in the context of that the financial position for the Council remains very precarious. And there is no line of sight within the current intervention period as to how you will achieve financial sustainability. However, you are making progress in a number of areas. I think one of the things that we were keen to see was your ability as a council to take some difficult decisions, which were quite painful around the budget and around services. And I think we've seen clear evidence that the council is proving that it is prepared to make those, what are very difficult decisions for you on behalf of your residents as well. One of the areas that the Best Value Inspection report highlighted was the issue between member and officer relationships. And how that was not universally positive. I think we've seen some considerable improvement in that, where there's respect improving on both sides, from members to officers, but equally officers to members as well. We have highlighted where that's not been consistent, but I am confident and hopeful that that situation is going to improve, and we're going to see a continued improvement of those relationships, which is so fundamental for the good running of the council as well. One of the areas that's been really key for you is improving your capacity and capability organisationally. And that, of course, was played out during your recruitment programme. I think I have to say we've been very impressed as commissioners, not just in terms of the results. You've attracted some very high calibre staff here that we've heard mentioned here tonight as well, but actually the way by which you engage in that recruitment, the way that many councils are involved, whether it be through stakeholder groups or indeed through the actual recruitments themselves, I think it did you credit as a council in terms of how well you managed that as well. The advice I would think you to think carefully in the context of culture is that you now have the great calibre of officers joining, some already very good officers in your council, but think carefully that you still continue to provide that supportive culture for those officers so that actually they feel they will want to stay here and be part for the long term for the council, a part of its recovery as well. On governance side, I think we've seen some considerable improvements around governance since our last report, and we recognise particularly within the governance recovery board, very good engagement for members towards that as well. There's a very clear for us improved decision making that you're making, which I think is helped by better forward planning of your agendas as well, and good grip from officers in that as well. I would advise members of the council to continue that focus on that, and particularly in some of their discussions, ensure that they retain the focus that is required for good quality discussion as well. On performance reporting, you've done some extremely good work, actually, I have to say, in terms of your performance management and insurance framework. Encourage you to build on that, and particularly your use of data and how you're starting to use that much more effectively for good quality evidence-based decisioning. So fully support the work that you're doing there as well. We've talked about the finances. I won't go into any particular detail onto that. I think you're only very well aware of that situation. Other than that, of course, elections are coming up. If there is a change of administration or a change of the makeup somehow, please, 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 you still have to focus very much on that financial challenge that you have as a council as well. And very briefly, in summing up, I think the things that we're looking forward to seeing moving forward is build on those things that you have done, I've talked about, maintain your robust focus on finances, develop at pace your transformation programme, develop a new operating model that you're starting to do some work on that, and look forward to seeing your emerging corporate plan, which really sets out your centre prioritisation. Madam Mayor, thank you very much indeed.
Gavin, Leader, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Gavin, for your report. I think just a couple of marks. I mean, the third letter is welcomed, and there's some really good points in there. Clearly, we've still got a long way to go, but as you said, over the governance, improved decision-making, forward planning, the ONS changes that we're making, the training for members, financial sustainability, as it says in the letter, that Thurrock is making good progress to implement the necessary changes. Thurrock is at the foothills, and as you said, we did, successfully get through a budget. I think, as we've said, it's a long journey. We've just started it. We are making some changes. I think the bit that's disappointing for me, and we've seen it this evening, is that the behaviour of a small number of members in Thurrock has the ability to impact the progress of the intervention. I'm quoting from the letter. Too much commissioners' and officers' time is being spent dealing with members who do not show respect and courtesy to officers that we expect to see. However, having said all of that, despite the actions of a few, we have seen a strengthening of members-officer relationships, and that's promising. I too would like to say I think the relationship between officers and members has improved a lot, and I think that has gone a long way to making this report so positive that we are able to say that we've started the journey, but we are making headways by the effort of nearly all 49 councillors. So thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Kent, would you like to speak? You have 4 minutes.
So, Madam Mayor, I'm one of those that has the opportunity to meet with commissioners on a regular basis, to take part in the various intervention boards that we have. So I do, of course, recognise the progress that we're making. And I think one of the most pleasing things is that there were no surprises in either the letter or the Minister's response. I'm not sure we would have been in a similar position a year ago. So I think that is a sign of progress. We are at the very, very early stages. I think the situation is still more fragile than sometimes we accept. And the finances are still, I wouldn't even say on a knife edge, are still absolutely disastrous. We do have to remember that this year we will be paying the equivalent of 138% of this council's budget in interest payments on our debt. Next year, that will still be well over 30%. That is utterly unsustainable, so we have a long, long way to go. I just want to end because, as I say, I have lots of opportunities and I want to hear what other members have to say by thanking Gavin and commissioners. I think that looking at other authorities before we ended up in this situation, commissioners were kind of seen as the bad cop that comes in. They've been incredibly supportive and incredibly useful. And I'm almost moved to the position where I think that almost every authority, no matter what situation they're in, should have a commissioner that comes in and acts as that critical friend on a constant basis, because that's what I believe Gavin and his team have been. So I'd just like to put that on the record and to thank Gavin for his efforts on our behalf.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Would any other member like to speak on this report? Gavin, would you like to sum up? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Mayor. So I think I'll just note the comments, if I may, from the two leaders and echo that final point that it's really promising the way that you have engaged with your recovery. It is, though, of course, a very long journey. And sadly, because of the financial position, the one bit I should have added, Madam Mayor, is because there is not yet that line of sight financially within the intervention period, commissioners are working with government department and trying to look at some creative opportunities for trying to address that longer term picture. I suspect that will be potentially more fruitful conversations post the general election, and we'll see where that takes us.
Thank you. Item 16, revised political balance. Leader, would you please introduce the report? This report can be found on pages 87 to 92. You have 5 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You'll be pleased and I won't be speaking for 5 minutes. I think the report is there for members to note, and at this stage in the political cycle and is about to go into elections, I don't think there'll be any changes that will be necessary.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Kent, would you like to say something?
Madam Mayor, just exceptionally pleased to note the report.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Would any other member like to speak on this report? No, thank you. I didn't think so. Leader, would you like to sum up? You have 2 minutes. Right. I will now proceed to the recommendations. 1.1, the political balance and allocations of seats as set out in Appendix 1 be noted. Are we all agreed? And you've noted it? 1.2, that the group leaders make any changes to seat allocations in accordance with the new proportionality. Yes? No? Thank you. Agreed. Do members note the recommendations of both of them? Thank you. Item 17, questions from members. Members' questions can be found on page 93 of the agenda. I would ask those members who have submitted questions to please read out their question when asked to do so. There are 3 questions to the leader and 2 questions to portfolio holders. Question 1 from Councillor Spate to the leader. Councillor Spate, please read out your question as set out on page 93 of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Over the past year, the Council has engaged in drafting its policies for the change in waste collection. There have been many discussions and meetings. At a number of them, I and others have raised the issue of how the additional fee for brown bins might be paid. At every point, I was told it was likely that residents would be offered the option to pay the additional amount through council tax payments. Recently, residents received notice of the change and were given one option: to pay by one payment, online and in a lump sum. Does the portfolio holder not believe that this penalises those who will struggle to pay by having to find £80 in a single amount, and that it disadvantages those in the borough that do not have access to online services?
Thank you, Councillor Spate. Leader, would you like to respond to this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Spate, for your question. I'm not aware of any discussions or meetings that have taken place where it has been discussed or agreed that payments for the garden waste subscriptions can be made through council tax payments, as this would not be possible, as one payment is a statutory payment of tax, and whilst the other, the garden waste subscription, is a discretionary payment for an optional service that residents can subscribe to if they wish. Residents wishing to join the service can do so online, or they can call the contact centre, where a subscription to the service can be set up and the payments taken. Residents who may have difficulties preventing them from joining the service online or through contact centres can get a friend or a relative to help them apply on their behalf.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Spate, do you wish to propose a supplementary question?
I do, Madam Mayor. Memory is such a wonderfully selective thing, isn't it? There you go. I find it quite amazing that you can stand and say what you've just said, Councillor Jeffries, because the leaflet that went to everybody does not include some of the information that you've just given as what residents should be able to do. If you look online at innumerable forums across this borough, there are people saying, what do we do? I've got a leaflet, it says I can't do this, whatever. Do I have a QR code on me bin? Is this going to work? Is that going to work? How is this going to happen? We did not communicate that information, and you've just added stuff in there. So can I, you spoke last night, and on Monday evening, and you've spoken again tonight about how brilliant and much improved our communication system is. I think what we need to be doing is communicating more information to our residents. And I ask you again, do you really think we have been fair to our residents on this significant change to their lifestyle?
Thank you, Councillor Spate. Leader, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Spate, for your supplementary. I think as a council we've given out good communication. Every household has received a letter explaining what the new service is, explaining how they're able to pay by going online. I think there's been, you mentioned social media. There have been social media posts, both on Twitter and on Facebook, and there's a whole campaign that's about to start where people will be informed about the changes to the bin service. What I would add to Councillor Spate is that I know he and his other group members are regularly on Facebook, either attacking the council or attacking individual councillors. Perhaps if you put a comment on there, giving people actual information, i.e. ring the call centre, they'll be able to take the payment. That would be more helpful than the attacks on the council.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Spate, do you wish to propose a second supplementary question? But Councillor Spate,
I certainly do, Madam
hang
Mayor.
on, Councillor Spate. When you speak, could it be a question rather than a monologue? Thank you.
Well, works the other way, doesn't it, as well? We've had plenty of monologues this evening. Yes, the question will be, it's very simple. A statement has just been made that every household in this borough has received a leaflet. Can I ask how that has been authenticated, that statement? What checks and balances have been put in place? How have we recorded where the leaflets have been dropped, where they've been dropped? And I would also, well, it's just, I can only ask one question, but I'd love to know how many people have actually signed up. I think in the briefing we got, it was about 800 people. But we clearly haven't done this right. But you made a statement. How do you arrive at that statement? How can you authenticate the fact of what you've just said, that every household in this borough has had a leaflet? Because I'll tell you now, that ain't the truth.
Thank you, Councillor Spate. Leader, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Spate, for your... I'd just like to do a quick poll. Hands up who's received a letter from the council talking about... Come on, you lot, put your hands up if you received the letter. Have you? Look, your backbenchers are putting their hands up. Hands up if you received it. There we go. I think there's a good cross-section of the council. Believe it or not, people do actually live in different parts of the council. So like with any communication that goes out, we've sent it out and we are aware. And the reason we're aware that people are doing it is because people are signing up for the subscription and it's across the borough. Every single ward has people signing up. At the moment, it's standing at around 20% and there's still some time to go. You asked me to answer your question, I'll answer
can you be
it my
quiet?
way.
Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're aware that 20% of the borough has already signed up, and 20% of the borough has already signed up, and that is across.
Can you all stop for a minute? Hang on. Councillor Maney, can you be quiet? We don't need everyone joining in. Right. Councillor Spate, you asked a question. The leader is now answering the question. And if you could... No, I just want you to be quiet. So I want to listen to what the leader has to say. So just be quiet and listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The other thing that I can confirm is that the distributors have GPS, so they're able to track where they've gone and which streets they've gone into. So I am fairly confident that whilst there might be one or two houses that are still to be delivered to, the vast majority of them have received a letter from the council, and if they haven't, I'm sure they've read your post and your blog telling them about it.
Thank you, Leader. Question 2 from Councillor Spate to the Leader. Councillor Spate, please read out your question as set out on page 93 of the agenda. Thank you.
Can the portfolio holder give the Chamber details of provisions being made to offset the problems of flooding in the Stanford West Ward?
Thank you, Councillor Spate. Leader, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Spate, for your question. A site meeting took place on the 18th of March with Stanford Ward councillors, Councillor Piccolo and Councillor Spate and myself, to engage members before a wider public engagement takes place to create a flood management scheme for Ruskin Road and Runnymede Road to mitigate potential flooding in the Stanford-le-Hope West Ward. The engagement exercise will be undertaken after local elections, in which residents will be able to work with the design team to enhance the open space adjacent to Runnymede Road and Ruskin Road, so that increased water storage can be provided in a sustainable manner. Additionally, the Council is working with the Catchment to Coast team to install water flow monitoring equipment around Mucking Creek so that evidence can be gathered to lobby for Mucking Creek to be dredged. For reference, the Port of London Authority controls this watercourse from the estuary up to the London Road Bridge asset.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Spate.
Yes, I was at that meeting, and we did talk about Ruskin Road and Runnymede, but it was also said at the meeting, we just chosen to not mention the problems on Poley Road, the problems on Bell Ellis, the problems on Kingsman, the problems on Wharf Road. So, you know, that's all part of the same ward, but never mind, a really good scheme coming up on Ruskin. It's really, really good. But what I would ask you, Councillor Jeffries, is flooding, we're told, in Stamford is a major problem, so much so that land that the council bought is now effectively worthless. So can you give us an update on the situation regarding the land that the council purchased for £4.3 million, I believe, that is now saying it's worthless because of flooding problems?
Thank you, Councillor Spate. Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Spate, for your question. In a word, no, but I'll write to you with an answer.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Spate, do you wish to respond?
Well, I hope you don't use the same postman that it was the last answer I was due to get, because I didn't get one. But there you go. I'm sorry, I just really don't think that that's acceptable, that the leader of this council does not know that the council bought this land.
It's a question.
It will be a question.
Councillor Spate, no, I don't want the bit before. I
Okay.
just
All
want
right.
the question.
Okay, the question is, the director of place stated to committee that the land that the council had on what used to be the Daybreak Window site was effectively worthless because of flooding. Now, that is a matter that's now in the public domain. Do you really think this is the best way we should be carrying out our business?
Leader, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Spate, for your supplementary question. I'm not sure whether he's asking about this meeting or the way in which you're asking questions. I've said to you, I don't know the answer to the question. I'll find out for you and come back to you. I'm not aware of what you're talking about. And to answer, I can't be aware of everything. I know my failings, yeah? I don't know everything. And if I don't know it, I'll admit it, unlike some people. I won't be using the Royal Mail, by the way. I'll be using the in-house email to respond to you.
Thank you, Leader. Question 3 from Councillor Polly to the Leader. Councillor Polly, please read out your question as set out on page 93 of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Would the Leader please advise if any schemes under the Essex Police Safer Streets initiative have been put forward for Thurrock?
Thank you, Councillor Polly. Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Polly. In the year 21-22, as part of round 2 of Safer Streets funding, we were awarded £432,000 with £193,380 match funding for the use within Grays High Street. In 2023-24, we were awarded £16,320, which formed part of a wider Essex bid for resources to support transport safety officers from the Department of Transport, with information leaflets, personal alarms, torches and anti-drink spiking awareness forming part of that funding. Additionally, in 23-24, through the Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner's Office, Thurrock was awarded £9,286 for addressing violence against women and girls in Corringham, which included CCTV improvements, additional officer patrols and self-defence classes, and a further £15,417 for operational dial to address antisocial behaviour in West Thurrock and Chafford Hundred Station. Looking ahead for 24-25, we'll receive £5,589 to install a new lamp column and CCTV overlooking the playing fields in Aluric Close, and a further £10,731 for transport safety officers, again Essex-wide.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Polly.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, Leader, for that very detailed answer. I do have a supplementary question. I understand on the 8th of March, on International Women's Day, Essex Police, together with the Home Secretary, the Police, Fire Crime Commissioner, welcomed 79 new officers to the force, 32 of which are women. Would the leader not agree that this is welcome news indeed?
Thank you, Councillor Polly. Leader.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Polly, for your supplementary. Absolutely, 79 new officers. But you know what I think would be even better news? If more than the 32 were women. You know, we're a country of, 50% men. Well, actually, I think it's less than 50% men, more women. It would be fantastic if we got more police officers from, more female police officers recruited, because they do make superb officers. But you're quite right, 79 new officers is great news.
Thank you. Councillor Polly? Thank you. Next question from Councillor Polly to Councillor Deborah Arnold. Councillor Polly, please read out your question as set out on page 93 of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Following the review of Thurrock's overview and scrutiny arrangements, under the recommendations put forward by the Centre of Governance and Scrutiny, would the portfolio holder please advise what consideration will be given to existing work programmes?
Thank you, Councillor Polly. Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Polly, for your question. As you know, it's not for Cabinet to suggest the work plans for an overview and scrutiny committee. It will be for the chairs and their committee members to have oversight and give consideration of the existing work plan when setting and determining their own work plan for the forthcoming year, in accordance with the new model and in consultation with corporate directors and the administration's priorities and plans. The new terms of reference set out that... Sorry, I think Councillor Morris-Cook wants to comment because she's talking over the top of me.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, it's just that Councillor Polly asked for existing work programmes, not new ones.
Sorry, Councillor, please just let Councillor Arnold answer the question. Thank you. And I think that Councillor Polly would be able to correct her herself. Thank you. Councillor Arnold, would you carry on?
Thank you. I'm talking about the existing working plan. It is still not for Cabinet to suggest the work plans to an overview and scrutiny committee. It will be for the chairs and their committee members to have oversight and give consideration to the existing work plan, as I said, when setting and determining their own work plan for the forthcoming year. It's not for the Executive Cabinet to set either of those work plans. It will be in accordance with the new model and in consultation with corporate directors and the administration's priorities and plans. The new terms of reference set out that 2 task and finish groups could be established at any one time and should not run longer than 10 weeks in duration. There is obviously an expectation that committees are fully informed and have researched into issues before giving consideration to establishing a task and finish group. And perhaps councillors in the room could actually listen to the full answer before interrupting.
Please, come on, we're not going to have cat fights. Councillor Polly.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. My supplemental question was out of concern from Councillor Redsall's question at last full council about what was happening with the petition for the or the motion for the task and finish group for the road safety aspects around our schools. Having visited just yesterday with Dukes, I was very impressed with the school council and their comments and suggestions on that, and I wouldn't have wanted to lose that task and finish group, as I think that was supported by the Chamber. And with the portfolio...
Councillor Polly, could it be a question?
Yes, sorry. So would the portfolio holder join me in welcoming the fact that this has been added into the work programme? The task and finish group has been agreed to start in the new system in June. Thank you.
Councillor Arnold.
I can't actually confirm that. I agree that it's really important that each committee definitely looks at the work plan that is currently in place and being worked on and look at that with the existing priorities for their new year and determine their work plan. Yes, I would hope that would happen, but as a cabinet member, I can't set the work plan, but I can hope that those setting the work plan will look in favour on that, absolutely.
Thank you, Councillor Arnold. Councillor Polly. Thank you. Question 2. Councillor John Kent to Councillor B. Maney. Councillor Kent, please read out your question as set out on page 93 of the agenda. Thank you.
As the State Cinema is falling further into disrepair, will the portfolio holder update us on efforts the Council is taking to fulfil its responsibilities to ensure the upkeep of this listed building?
Councillor Maney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Kent, for your question. Madam Mayor, since ownership of the former State Cinema changed in June 2023, the Planning Service has been working closely with Historic England, Place Services, Essex County Council Conservation Specialists and the new owners to try and safeguard the future of this important local landmark. This has continued since Councillor Kent last sought an update via full council in September last year. During this time, officers from the council and other organisations have been emphasising the importance of ensuring the building is secured and protected in the short term. The owners have now undertaken surveys of the building, including a drone survey of the roof. They have also been seeking contractors to carry out essential repairs, but this has proved problematic due to the scale and status of the building. The owners have now appointed a contractor who has produced a method statement, and this will form the basis for a scheme of urgent repairs. The council was informed this week that the owner is expecting works to start in the next few weeks, and the council will of course monitor this. In addition, Madam Mayor, the owners have now submitted to the council a pre-planning application, which I understand officers have given a positive opinion on. The expectation now is that a formal planning application will be submitted in the near future so that the former State Cinema can be preserved in the long term and become a functional building once again, as it was always intended to be. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Maney. Councillor Kent, do you wish to propose a supplementary question?
Madam Mayor, I'm grateful for that response, but I noticed the response started at June 23. Can the portfolio holder explain why the council wasn't using the powers at its disposal to insist that the previous owners took greater steps to preserve the upkeep of the building?
Thank you, Councillor Kent. Councillor Maney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, because the council is of a different opinion to Councillor Kent. We've sought legal opinion, including the opinion of a barrister, on whether that option is available to the council, and the advice is that it isn't. So it's quite simply, Madam Mayor, the council does not agree that it can take the steps that Councillor Kent believes it can take. Now, he's frowning, he disagrees. That's the advice I've been given. I've been given it more than once. I was given it today. I'm advised that that is the opinion of a barrister, and Madam Mayor, it's not for me to challenge that, but the council has, as I said, taken legal advice and does not believe that is an option. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Maney. Councillor Kent.
Madam Mayor, I think Councillor Maney misunderstood the question. I'm not talking about taking retrospective action. What I'm asking for is why no action was taken against the previous owner prior to June 23.
Councillor Maney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It wasn't, and I think, as I've said before in this chamber, the condition of the poor state of repair of the building didn't happen overnight. It's been a long-term neglect, a long-term deterioration of the building. And I think all along the way, all along that journey, we can ask ourselves, why didn't we intervene sooner? Why didn't the council take action sooner? And I think we've missed opportunities. The fact of the matter is we are where we are now, and there is the chance to get a positive outcome. The issue of enforcement action hasn't actually gone away. And we have had this pre-planning application, and the expectation is that a planning application will come forward. But there's no guarantees of that, and I think we have to be very clear that if that doesn't happen, I would very much hope and expect to see a planning application in the first quarter of the new municipal year. And if that doesn't happen, then I think we need to be very clear we expect enforcement action to ensue. But a word of caution, Madam Mayor, it's not a simple case of popping along to the High Court. Enforcement action carries great risks. It's not if the council were to pursue that route, it effectively has to issue an urgent works notice. That could very likely compel the council to carry out the works that we seek to preserve the former state cinema. That could place an astronomical cost on the council's finances. I was given the figure for that some days ago, and it runs into the hundreds of thousands of pounds. Enforcement action is not an option that should be taken lightly. It absolutely has to be the last resort. And in that event, members need to be very clear, it would involve very likely the council committing hundreds of thousands of pounds as part of that enforcement action. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor Maney. Item 18, reports from members representing the council on outside bodies. Does any member who represents the council on an outside body wish to present a report? Councillor Spate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just very briefly, members will recall that from time to time I've reported on the situation regarding East Thurrock Community Association premises. I'm delighted to report that a significant amount of progress has been made towards brokering a deal. I'd like to pay tribute to the team Rob Large has led under the direction of the Director of Place in working with committee members at the club. We're close to a solution that I think will suit everybody round. There's a few figures that have yet got to be juggled, but I very much look forward to the fact that within a relatively short amount of time, we'll be able to report that premises has now become a genuine part of the local community, owned by the local community, operated by the local community and for the local community. So I'd like to thank all the council officers who've been involved in that project.
Thank you, Councillor Spate. Item 19, minutes of committees. These are listed in the agenda on the contents page. Item 20, motion update report. This report can be found on page 95 of the agenda and is information on the status of motions.
Chapter 2, 3.4, J&R. I'd just like to make a comment to the meeting based on that. I think it's a constructive comment, but if you allow me to make it, I think it will be advantageous.
Councillor Spate, I was reading a bit, and then you've put your hand up, and then
you
want
don't
to
look
go.
up.
So, hang on a minute. Let me see where I was. I was saying the report can be found on page 95 of the agenda and is information on the status of the motions. Yes? That's what I said. So now we're coming to the close of the business tonight. So you want to... So what you're saying is you've got another point of order on something. So if you stand up and tell me what point of order it is.
Right. It relates to Chapter 2, 3.4, J and R. It relates to motions brought before this committee. And I'm trying to be constructive here, and I'm not being critical of anyone. It's something we're trying to improve the way the functionality of this council works. As members will remember, at the last full council meeting, Councillor Byrne had a question which he deferred because Councillor Piccolo had got a motion to be debated. The meeting rang on. Councillor Piccolo decided and asked the meeting if that item, that the motion, could be deferred until the next meeting. So that was what we were expecting to happen. None of us knew, as members, that Councillor Piccolo had, is quite within his right, withdrawn his motion. It was about Stamford Railway Station, a massively important topic to those of us in Stamford. Had we been made aware that the motion had been withdrawn, then I'm sure one of us would have put a motion in or possibly raised another question on Stamford Railway Station. My suggestion is that when we have a deferred item from one meeting that is supposed to carry over to another, if that for any circumstances whatsoever doesn't happen, a round robin to all councillors be issued just informing of that, and so everybody learns a little bit more about what we're doing as a council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Spate, but I think we're going to refer this to the... Hang on. Refer this to the Constitutional Working Group to have a look at. Okay? Thank you. Councillor Redsill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just...
Councillor, hang on. Can you be quiet in the back row? Because I can't hear. Councillor Redsill, I hope this is going to be a point of order and you're going to tell me what point of order you're going to speak about.
No, it's not a point of order, Madam Mayor. It's on the motions that we're on. I just wanted to make it clear to all in the chamber, and Councillor Polly mentioned it a little while ago, that the task force is being set up for the motion that I put forward. I'm not happy that I put that motion in October. It is now coming up to April, and it won't be put forward till July. So it's getting on for nearly a year, and it was a good motion. We was all involved with it, and I really am cross. I mean, officers have come back, I'll give them their due, that we are going to do it, but they say they're doing the work now of what the task force should be doing. So I'm really cross that if this is, can we please say that in the next municipal year it's going to work better with motions? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I actually agree with you as well. So I did read that, and I can understand your point. It shouldn't take a year, and it should have been a task and finish. Thank you. Councillor Piccolo, have you got a point number you're going to quote at me?
No, I was aware that something... Sorry, Madam Mayor. I was aware that something may crop up about Stamford Station. And if I may respond to clarify why the meeting, or it wasn't brought to this council tonight, as I suggested it would be.
Councillor Piccolo, though, it isn't a point of order. So really...
It's on the agenda. It's a point of clarity. I'm answering Councillor Spates or explaining to him why the meeting never took place.
I was going to say that this isn't quite the forum to have it in, because it's... Councillor Worrell, I do know what I'm doing. Can you shush from the back row?
I'll leave with you, Madam Mayor, but I say it would have been handy if
okay,
the rest...
we understand that, but I think we'll talk about that in a different forum. Okay? Thank you. The time is 9 o'clock. This concludes the business of the meeting this evening, and I now declare the meeting will be closed. But before you all get too excited, please can I remind you, members, to take all their rubbish home or use the bins near the exit of the chamber. And I'd also, again, like to invite all the members and officers back to the chamber for refreshments in the Mayor's parlour. Thank you very much.